Are you interested in a new or used Quantum Rehab product? Well, stay tuned to this video where we're going to show you the differences between all the models that Quantum Rehab has out currently on the market today. Hey, I'm Alex with Marc Mobility. Before I start with this video, I do want to mention that we do sell used Quantum products, and hopefully here in the next month or two, we will be able to offer new Quantum products as well. If you go down below to the description, we will have links to the products on our website. And now we're going to go ahead and begin to go over the differences and variations of their products. Now there's going to be four major drive types of drive configurations from the Quantum Rehab products. You're going to have a mid-wheel drive, you're going to have a front-wheel drive, a rear-wheel drive, and an all-wheel drive. And now I'm going to kind of go over what the differences are with these units. So the first one we're going to go over is going to be mid-wheel drive, and mid-wheel is going to be a unit that is going to turn in the smallest turning radius due to the drive configuration. It is going to have your drive wheel, which makes sense based on mid-wheel, but it's going to be directly in the center of the unit. So you are going to have caster wheels in the front and the rear that are going to swivel. But a mid-wheel drive configuration is going to create somewhat of the most stability for a person because you're sitting directly over the drive wheels, and also is going to have the tightest turning radius. Now, mid-wheel drive, when we are selling one of these products, is primarily going to be used for inside usage or outside on hard top surfaces. So the advantage of it being the most compact with the turning radius is great, but the downside is it is on a mid-wheel drive unit, since you do have those swivel wheels in the front and the rear. If you were to take it on softer surfaces and you go to turn, sometimes those small caster wheels can dig into the ground, and then what happens is it causes your drive tire to spin and you could be stuck in place. Doesn't mean that will always happen, but that's just kind of the downside of a mid-wheel drive. It is going to be primarily hard top surfaces and for inside usage. The next drive configuration that we're going to go over is going to be your front wheel driven units. Now, front wheel driven units mean your large, typically 14-inch drive tire on these units is going to be located towards the front of the unit, almost kind of underneath your thighs is where that would kind of be located when you're sitting on the chair. And you're going to notice it's going to have wheels in the front of the drive wheels, but they're actually anti-tip wheels. So they're going to be elevated off the ground. That's only for stability purposes. If you went down a slope that was not intended for what they recommend for this type of unit, it would stop you from tipping over forwards. And you are going to have caster wheels in the back of these units, but the caster wheels are designed differently than on the mid-wheel drive units. They're typically a little wider and a little bit taller, so they're going to have better traction when you are driving outside. Now, a front-wheel driven unit is going to take at minimum 3-4 inches of a turning radius more than what a mid-wheel unit takes, just based on where that front tire is located. So you can use a front wheel driven unit inside the house, but do know it is going to take up more space to turn than on a mid-wheel driven unit. So it's not like you can't have it. And when we're trying to identify for a customer whether they want a mid-wheel or a front wheel drive, we typically ask this next question is, okay, you're going to be using it inside. Are you going to be using it outside? And what type of surfaces are you going to be driving it on? Due to having your front wheel configuration, you're able to climb over objects. It's not like you're going to be going over curbs, but thresholds, stumps in the yards, things like that are way easier to drive over with the front wheel configuration, because your power is located with the first point of contact with your drive wheel. So if you are looking for something that you need for something inside, but also you are going to be taking it outside on non-paved surfaces, then a front wheel driven configuration might be the best one for you. The next drive configuration we're going to go over is going to be the rear wheel drive. Now, rear wheel driven units are pretty normal in folding units and a lot of other products on the market. So pretty much all the folding units are going to be kind of a rear wheel driven unit, and manual chairs are kind of that rear wheel driven concept. But I can tell you, by going through some of the driving obstacles at the Quantum Rehab headquarters, a rear wheel configuration is the hardest to navigate in small spaces. So some people have used the rear wheel drive before and they're used to it, so that is fine if they still want to use that inside. but it's a little bit different of a way you have to turn. You have to almost go past the object before you make your turn because the front end swings around. So if somebody's never driven a chair before, we typically don't put them in a rear wheel drive chair. We're going to go with a mid wheel or maybe a front wheel drive. But the advantage of rear wheel drive, it is one of the best drive configurations for outside. So if somebody told me they had a big open floor plan in their house and they're going to be primarily using it outside on non-paved surfaces, well then rear wheel drive could be a fantastic unit for you. Your large 14-inch drive wheel is going to be in the back of the unit. You are going to have caster wheels in the front, but once again, it's kind of like that front wheel driven unit. They're going to be a lot bigger and wider of caster wheels, and they typically have really good suspension, so it almost will lift up and over an object. And so if you're looking for something that has truly the best outdoor capability between a front mid wheel and a rear wheel, then the rear wheel drive configuration is going to be the best. But just remember, if you've not had a chair before, it's typically the hardest to navigate in smaller spaces. And the last drive configuration that Quantum came out with about a year ago, they came out with what's called a Quantum Outback. We'll call that an all-wheel drive configuration. So it's a true 4x4 power chair. This is primarily going to be outside usage. So if you had a wide open floor plan, like really wide open floor plan, yes, you could take this inside, but this type of unit is made more for people that have a chair inside or are able to get around with a walker or a cane or other type of device, but really want something that's truly all-terrain out there on the market. I mean, we've taken this to the softest of sand in the Florida beaches that we have here, and I can tell you there's nothing else currently on the market that drives with the power and the maneuverability of the Quantum Outback. So you do have a drive a motor tied to each drive wheel. Now your front wheels are the only wheels that actually turn. So once again, if you're on a hard top surfaces, sometimes you can feel like that turning radius is going to be by far the largest out of all the configurations we went over, but it is by far the most powerful unit to be able to navigate trails, sand, really snow, almost any type of terrain that you want to go on. So all-wheel drive, once again, is not going to really be something for inside. It's going to be primarily strictly for outside, but it is by far the best drive configuration. So now we're going to break down the mid-wheel drive configuration units. These units are going to consist of a Quantum Edge 2.0, a Quantum Edge 3, the Quantum Stretto, and the Quantum Edge HD. Now I'm going to go ahead first and start with the 2.0. The 2.0 and the Edge 3 are going to be a similar looking unit. If you looked at the two of them from a novice user, you would not notice much difference in these units, but there are going to be some small differences. They're all both the mid-wheel drive. They have a standard package at 6.25 miles per hour. The overall width and the length of the unit is going to be similar, but some of the differences between those two models is the Edge 3 does have an available package to put 7-mile-an-hour motors on there, and you're also able to get the newest seating system, which is the TB4, which could have an interior tilt if that was a purchased item that you wanted. And then also on the Edge 3, Quantum actually met with Motocross to design the suspension, so you will see that on the Edge 2.0 it's silver looking shocks. On the Edge 3 it's a gold looking shock, so that gold shock is when they met with Motocross to design that specifically for the vibration and the user overall feel of the unit. That is going to be some of the differences between those two units. There's other minor differences such as like wheel inserts and a few other things of colors, but those are going to be the primary differences. The turning radius between the two units is going to be the same at 20.5 inches. And I do want to mention in this video as well, we're kind of going over the bases. So these are the bases, not necessarily the seats. I did mention the TB4 seating that is only available on the Edge 3, not the Edge 2.0. But overall, some of these specs could change based on depending on what seat that you're putting on the particular unit. Now the next unit that I'm going to go over is going to be the Stretto. The Stretto means narrow in Italian. So what that is your wheelbase is going to be under or at or under 22 inches of a wheelbase. Now I will mention to you this as well, that this is typically used for smaller people because you have to have either a 17-inch back or smaller on there for your outside of arms to outside of arm overall width to still be within that 22 inches. So people that call that, let's say they're 5'7", 220 pounds, well, a 17-inch back is going to be a little too narrow for them, so you might have to have an 18 or a 19-inch back. Well, now your outside of armrest measurement is going to be closer to 24. So we typically recommend, unless you need that 17-inch back or smaller, that you look at an Edge 2.0 or an Edge 3. But if you are small and you do want something that can navigate with the smallest overall width and you are a small individual, then the Stretto would be a great option. Now the Stretto can also go 6.25 miles an hour and also have the TB4 seating. So if you are looking for that anterior tilt option on a new unit, that would be either the Edge 3 or the Stretto. Now, a couple similarities between the Edge 2.0, the Edge 3, and the Stretto is going to be they're all rated for somebody up to 300 pounds. And they're also going to have a similar drive range, somewhere between that 12 to 15 mile drive range, depending on the user's weight, the condition of the batteries, and then also the terrain that they're driving it on. So those are going to be the three similarities. And obviously we kind of went over what the differences are on those units. Now, the last mid-wheel drive we're going to go over is going to be the Quantum Edge HD. Now the Quantum Edge HD is rated for 450 pounds. I will mention to you that obviously these chairs can get seat lift, tilt, recline, legs. When you put a seat lift on an HD unit, it is capped at 400 pounds. If you just have tilt, recline, and legs, it's 450 pounds. But if you do need that 10-inch seat elevation, then it is going to be capped at 400 pounds. You're also going to have a little bit slower speed on the Quantum Edge HD. It is going to be at about 4.5 miles an hour. That is going to be a little bit slower than the 6.25 that is standard on the other units that I mentioned prior. But one advantage of the HD as well is it actually does have a very true exact mid-wheel drive, where the other ones might be offset an inch with the drive tire. So your turning radius on an HD is going to be smaller. The turning radius on a Quantum Edge HD is 19.75 inches, while on the other units that I mentioned, you're more at that 20.5 to 21 inch turning radius. So you would think, hey, it's a bigger unit. Yes, the wheelbase is wider, but due to where that drive configuration is, that is going to be the smallest turn configuration out of all of the units. Now we're going to go over the battery sizes on the mid-wheel driven units. So the Edge 2.0, Edge 3, and the Stretto all take 55 amp batteries, which is called a 22 NF. That's the code for the batteries. But the only difference is going to be the Stretto has to have flat post batteries, which means the screws down into the battery instead of the lead going through the terminal. So once again, if you are looking for batteries, we will have links below at the bottom. The Stretto is 55 amp batteries, just like the Edge 2.0 and Edge 3, but it has to have recessed terminal. So you'll see it called flat top or recessed post. Either one of those terms is what is needed for the Stretto. Now on the Quantum Edge HD, you need 75 amp batteries as well. And I would mention to you as well, MK batteries, 75 amps fit in the Edge HD, but there are some battery manufacturers, depending on where the lead posts are, it could create an issue with sliding the battery in. So once again, if you are going to buy batteries for the Quantum Edge HD, I would look at the MK brand or look at recessed post 75 amp batteries for the Quantum Edge HD. So now we're going to go over the front wheel driven configurations, and there are two models. You're going to have what's called a 4Front 2 and a 4Front 2 HD. Now the 4Front is going to be a 300-pound weight capacity. The 4Front HD is going to be a 450-pound weight capacity. But like what we mentioned earlier in the video, if you are adding a seat lift to the HD unit, it is then going to be rated at 400 pounds. So without the seat lift, it's 450 on the HD model, and it's 300 pounds on the non-HD model. So just want to go ahead and clarify that with you first. Now on the 4Front, both of these units, whether it's the HD or the non-HD, are going to take 75 amp batteries, but these are also going to need to be the recessed post, like flat terminal batteries. You are not able to slide in the batteries that have the terminals that stick up. And I know if you're not familiar with batteries, if you kind of know like a car battery, it's not the same concept, but it is where you have that lead that sticks up. That's what you're going to call a flag post battery. And you actually need the flat recessed post batteries for both of these units. Now on the 4Front 2 non-HD model, you are going to be able to go up to 6.25 miles an hour, while on the 4Front 2 HD model, they cap it at 5 miles an hour in speed. So you're going to have a little bit different motor configuration for power or for speed based on if you need the HD or the non-HD model. Now, one thing I want to mention too as well that we really think enhances these for outside, you are able to also get a knobby tire package option on these units. It is probably a 4-inch tire. It's still the same height, but it's a lot knobbier to be able to grip, and you're able to get that in either a pneumatic or a solid foam filled tire. And then on the 4Front 2 non-HD, the standard model, you're able to get the TB4 seating as well as an option. And then you will have a link below that can even take you to Quantum's site that would kind of show you the different seatings options on these units. Now the overall drive distance between the 4Front 2 and the HD model is going to be the same at a roughly 16 miles per charge. Obviously, I always state this in my videos, that's based on the user's weight and the terrain and how they're driving the unit. Similar to how you drive a car, it could vary how many miles per gallon you get. Same with wheelchair batteries, depending on how much you're stopping and going and the terrain and the weight of the user, that can also vary the overall range. But they do say up to 16-mile range with new batteries. Now we're going to go into the rear wheel drive configuration. So Quantum only has one rear wheel driven unit currently on the market. It's called an R-Track. Once again, this is going to be one of the better units for outside, the best unit besides the all-terrain unit. So if you're not getting that expensive all-terrain unit, yes, the R-Track is the best for outside. The R-Track is going to be a 300-pound weight capacity unit. And this is also going to take the 75 amp batteries, but I believe also with this unit, it needs to be the flat recessed post batteries. You are not able to get the flag posts. How they're designing these chairs, they're trying to make it as compact as possible, so that extra lead on top takes up an extra inch. So you do have to get recessed post batteries, which we do sell once again, but you are not able to get the flag post batteries into the R-Track unit. Now the R-Track is going to go 7 miles per hour, so it is a little bit quicker. Once again, it has a lot better climbing ability than some of the other units. And the turning radius is going to be 25.7. So if you remember earlier with our mid-wheel driven units when we were going over and it was either between 20 to 21 rough inches, this is going to be at 25.7 inches. So you can see how that is significantly more room that you're going to need to be able to turn in a circle. Now the R-Track is going to come with either a solid 14-inch drive wheel or a pneumatic drive wheel, so that is an option if you're purchasing one of these new. You're able to get either or of the tires, and I do believe you're able to get the large knobby tires on the R-Track as well if you want to have the most possible traction for outdoor usage. Now the last drive configuration we're going to go over is going to be the all-wheel drive unit that is called the Quantum Outback. Once again, we do sell these units new, so if you are interested in one of these, let us know. But this unit is either going to have a 300-pound weight capacity if you're going to have electrical seat functions on the unit, or if you go with the captain seat, which is kind of like a standard seat you would see on a regular power chair, then it's a 350-pound weight capacity. So either 300 or 350 based on the seating configuration. And then you are also able to get with the like TB3 seating, you're able to get seat lift, tilt, recline, and electric legs. This particular unit is going to come standard with the 100 amp hour batteries. They say the range is 16 miles of range, but I've gotten a lot of comments and feedback that people are taking these on the beach and through, snow and different stuff, creating a lot of resistance on the motors. So people are that range can really vary somewhere between 8 to 10. Potentially up to 16 if you're only on a hard top surface, but in general, you're not going to be really driving this on the road. You're going to be driving it more off-road. So I would scale that down between somewhere 8 and 12 miles of actual drive distance on the unit if you're driving it where it's probably intended to be used. Now, The unit does come with two different speed packages. You have a high torque motor, which is a 5-mile-an-hour package, or you have a high speed motor, which is a 6-mile-an-hour package. So since these are custom built, you can choose which motor package you want to go with. I assume most people would probably want the 5-mile-an-hour package since you're going to get the most amount of torque out of this unit, but a 6-mile-an-hour package is also available. We mentioned earlier how this is going to be strictly pretty much an outdoor type chair. This is going to have a 49.2 inch turning radius. So, I mean, you're going to need over 100 inches basically to be able to turn this, and that still might even be a very, I would say non-conservative number. It might even take a little bit more room to turn than that. Obviously, you can do 3-point turns and you can do different things, but just to sit there and turn in a circle, that's how we mentioned this is pretty much an outdoor type chair. Now, it does come with 4 pneumatic 15-inch drive wheels on the unit. That is standard. There is no other option of different drive tires currently at this time. So you are getting, each tire is the same 15-inch wheel, and it is pneumatic. Now, a little side note as well, we do sell some of the Quantum Edge units, and we do put the large knobby tires on there. So we do have some videos out there that kind of show the different drivings when you have the knobby tires or the non-knobby tires on the unit. So if you are looking for one of those, we do sell those gently used at a pretty reasonable price. And then Quantum also took over the Jazzy 1450, which is a 600-pound weight capacity unit. So now it is in the Quantum line. It's not really the same as the other chairs that we mentioned. That's why it wasn't really listed in those categories, but that is a front wheel driven unit with a 600-pound weight capacity. And then through Quantum, you are able to get different seating options on the 1450. So we do sell those gently used at the moment, and in the near future, we would be able to sell the Quantum 1450s new as well. Now, I do want to mention to you that everything that we've showed you here in this video, we do currently sell gently used. Here shortly, we will be able to offer these to you as well new. So if you would, you can go down and look at the links to find out more information on these products, or just give us a call because we'd love to speak to you to try to figure out the questions that we kind of went through, your height and your weight, where you're going to use it, and we'll be able to best identify what's going to be the best drive configuration for you. So if you have any questions, give us a call at the number below. We'd be glad to speak with you.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And my name is Alex. We're co-owners of Marc Mobility.
I started this company in 1995.
We sell many products, not just what you see in this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please call us at the number below at 800-677-6293. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.